I'll see you later.
All right.
You're going to be on TV. I'm glad you look good.
What do you mean?
That's TV.
Where?
Right in front of you.
I know.
With Gwen and Azama-Edwards.
YouTube. Or something.
Welcome, 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 welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. And as always, I want to empower you, your community, and you know what, I got to tell you this. Big was talking about, I think something about kind of day we have or whatever else, and I was thinking quite truly before I even go through my skill about the kind of day that I've had. And I woke up this morning, and Morgan, you're like this. I woke up this morning, and I cleaned all of my windows, all of my sliding glass doors inside and out. I use a swidgy. That's a good thing to use, guys, if you want to clean your own. I said to my husband, you know, we were going to hire somebody, and I said, I got up and I said, I could do this, so I did that. And then I started, just before the show started, writing up my little sermonette that I'm going to do in a couple of weeks at the church. And I got here and I said, you know, this is a great day. I really feel great. And Morgan, actually, as I was watching something that I recorded before I came, it was talking about a tornado warning. And I called my husband and I said, oh, did you know there's a tornado warning? It's down in Brevard County. It looks like it's working its way up. What's going on? What did you hear? What did you hear? And it turned out that when I recorded my show over a week ago, there was a tornado warning. So that was part of the recording. So I'm hearing about the tornado warning, and I'm looking at the bad weather outside, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, it's a tornado warning. And guys, I'll tell you, that's why the word says, don't worry about anything. Because here I was working myself into a sweat, and that tornado warning was about over a week ago. It wasn't even anything even about today. So when I say empower yourself with knowledge, I seriously mean empower yourself with knowledge, because you get the wrong word, and before you know it, you're worried and you're stressed out, and I tell you what, it makes for a very bad day. So once I got past that, before that, after that, things were really good. And I am in a good mood now, Morgan, now that I know that there's not a tornado coming this way. And because of my guest, Morgan Gilreath, and his wife is here with him too, and I'm always glad to have her here, because the last time he was on the show, what, it's been about 2 years?
Oh, it hasn't been that long.
I bet it's been at least a year and a half probably, right? Anyway, his wife was here with him at that time too, so I always enjoy having you here, Morgan, and the major reason truly that I enjoy you is because you tell it like it is, and those are the kind of people I invite to this show, people who speak truth. Big John says it's my truth, but it's the truth of those who come on, and people who really and truly tell it like it is. And you tell people what they need to know. That's what the show is about, empowering people and telling them what they need to know. Because the more knowledge you have, guys, the more you can help control your life and what goes on in your life and in your community, okay? That's why I say we're about empowering you, your family, and your community. And we had a query on the website, www.gwen-truth.com, and I was asking you guys about government employees who retire, and they end up earning in their retirement more than you guys earn. And if you felt that was right, and 100% of you, of course, said no. And I have a new query now, and this query has to do with Morgan, what I've seen when I go to different businesses and the like, and I tell them, I say to the businesses, I say to their employees, you know, you can either draw business to your business or you can repel it by the way you treat people. You know, if you're courteous, if you treat people with respect, then that's a place that people are going to want to come and spend their business. So my query really has to do with whether or not you guys kind of agree with me. that people are a lot more discourteous now. They're less humane to each other and less caring. And that's what the query has to do with. And I hope you'll go to the website and kind of chime in on that and let me know if you agree. Are people less that way, less courteous and humane and caring now than they were, say, you know, even 10 years ago? Even 10 years ago. So go onto the website, www.gwen-truth.com, and kind of chime in on that and let me know what you think. My guest, as has been mentioned by Big John, is our property appraiser, someone that I've known for many years. I've respected him for many, many, many years as well. I'll share with him something I thought about when I was coming to do the show, Morgan, tonight. And, okay, let me check this for me. Yes. It's working. When you went into your position as property appraiser, I think your boss retired, right? Did he retire?
He did.
Okay. I had the Speaker of the House at that time was Rutherford. And he said, Gwen, there's an opening. You interested? I said, I don't know, let me check. I checked with people about you because you were interested in the job. And I said to him, no, I don't think so. I said, they got a good person that's interested. And I think he'll do a good job.
Well, thank you.
And I have never regretted that decision, number one. Not that I would have run it out, beat you or anything like that. But I chose to because I think it's important to have good people in office. And you have proven and shown yourself to not only be a good person in knowing your stuff, number one, but also in sharing with people information that they need, the elected officials, appointed officials, even regular residents, information that they need to make the right decisions in. And you do that. You go out of your way to pull information together that you feel can be used to help us in decision making and making things better for the here and now. And I don't just say that because you're here and your wife is here. I say that because that is truly what I feel and what I believe. So I'm just so grateful to you for the job that you've done. And I just say keep on keeping on. You may be at a time when your family says, okay, Morgan, it's time to hang it up. But long as you wanna run, hey, you got my support because you really do the job, not as a job, but as a what is that we say that the Lord gives us? You know, yes, a calling, a calling. It is a calling on your life. And your wife shared with me, and I don't know if you want me to share, but I'm going to share it because she shared. And I think people need to know that you're one of the few government employees that when you go out of town, even though you can get per diem, you don't. You pay your own way.
That's right.
Now, see, that says a lot.
Well, now I send the hotel bills back, but I've paid for my food for 27 years. Even when I was chief deputy, I didn't bill the county for meals.
Oh,
and
man.
I still don't. I've always had that. I don't make a big deal out of it, but I got to eat 3 meals a day. And if I'm in DeLand, I got 3 meals a day and I'm paying for them. So if I go to Tallahassee or if I go somewhere else to a conference or something like that, even though sometimes the food costs more, I tell you, in New York City, I can follow people around and I can find a place where everyday people eat. And I can eat in Manhattan almost as cheap as I can eat here. Because I don't have to go eat at Fifth Avenue or somewhere like that. But
and those are the best places to go anyway.
You know, I think they are.
Yeah.
And along the lines of what you were saying before, people make better decisions with more information. So I've always tried, and I was telling Ed, I was talking with an attorney in Tallahassee before I came in here. And I said to him, I'm one of these crazy people who will meet with an attorney in a lawsuit and I'll say, you know, I'm not about winning. I'll give you the weakest point of my case. I'm about seeing that the right thing gets done and I need information from you. I'll let you know everything I'm using. I'm not, you know, we don't ever in lawsuits, we never try to hold information back or do anything because it's about getting a good decision made. And that's a different mindset than they run into a lot of times. So.
Absolutely, and that was me with public records as a city clerk too. I was accused of helping the other side because I gave them records that they requested. That was the law, you know. If you don't want people to know about something that you said, then don't say it. That's the best way to do it.
I think information overload is a very comfortable place. I don't care which side of the table you're sitting on. And you're all going to make better decisions if you got more information on the table. So I try to load it up from my side and try to encourage people to do it the other way too.
Oh, absolutely. And that's probably another reason that I love you too. Love. I use the word love, but I do. Because you're a super person with the right heart, okay?
The top 2 commandments we get from the guy upstairs.
That's what he said.
That
love
works
one
in
another.
both of them, yeah.
That's right, absolutely. You know, part of what we're going to do tonight is kind of go back to Property Appraisal 101. Because there are a lot of people, and I'm sure you find this, that still do not understand how their property is appraised. And they don't understand the values, how the values go up and down and the like. And what I'd like to do tonight, at least for the first part of our show, is to share with people how you go about doing appraisals and coming up with the value of properties, whether it's residential or commercial.
Well, we are, let's talk about value first because that's our target. We're trying to, and it's legislated in both the Constitution and in the Florida statutes. We're trying to come up with a value called fair market value, which is essentially what a willing buyer and a willing seller would settle at. But 2 buyers and 2 sellers on the same property might come up with a different number, so it's really kind of a range. But that's what we are shooting for. And the idea is in property taxation that if everybody's value is essentially what the property is worth, then they pay equally based on that value. The millage rate is another part of that I need to probably hold until after we talk about values. But if the rate the rate is just a percentage. So if everybody's paying on the same kind of basis for value, then everybody pays their fair share. What we do and how we come up with the number is really not that complicated, but some of the stuff we go through gets that way before we're finished with it. In the appraisal business, there are 3 different, they're called approaches to value or ways of finding value. One is the market approach, which is looking at how properties buy and sell in the marketplace. Another is if you don't have a market, and we haven't had one in some areas, you have what does it cost to build something. But if you're going to look at what it costs to build something, everything wasn't built this year, so then you have to look at what's there, see what kind of condition it's in, and estimate the depreciation on it, so that you're getting sort of an effective look at the age that it's in. And then there's an income approach, which looks at properties like rental properties or say strip shopping centers or malls, where the property is owned by one entity or maybe a company, and then it's leased out to people. And if those properties sell, they sell based on the income that comes in to the owner from the rent, not the income the business makes in the store that's there. So we look at rental incomes on income properties as well. On single-family properties, on homes, which is at this time of day, probably everybody listening is sitting in their home. What we do there is we've got a computer program that has the properties broken down. We have them sketched, so we have the square footage. We have it broken into the heated area of the house, the porch, the patio, if they've got a pool area or other parts of the house. We have those priced in a replacement cost model on a price per square foot for the different sections. We'll have another price for the square footage upstairs. We update those figures every year. We look at those figures each year in terms of new properties that have been sold, backing out the land value from the sale price and then comparing that to our cost model, so we market orient that model so that it represents basically what people are buying and selling for. Then we look at the land and look at sales in the area and comparable sales of properties that might be not right there but close that are similar. And we come up with land rates either per square foot or per front foot, value the land and put all that together into an estimate of value. We compare, and the way we calibrate is the right term, another word would be check. The way we check our numbers is to take all the properties that sell and see how close we are to the selling prices. We are targeting around 85% of what properties would sell for. That does not mean we take a sale price and multiply it times 85%. It means we expect our model to produce a value in a range near 85% of what things do sell for. And then that means our model is assigning values on properties that sell and on properties that don't sell in a similar fashion, so everybody pays a fair share whether the property sold or not. And then we look at sales in different neighborhoods. You could have a property in Holly Hill, you could have a property in Ormond Beach, you could have a property in DeLand. Might be exactly the same house with the same square footage and the same size lot. And those three homes are going to sell for different money. They're worth different amounts of money. So we will adjust our model for different neighborhoods. We have the county broken into about 3,000 neighborhoods, 2,500 neighborhoods. And we'll have a percentage adjustment that lets us get more accurate in a neighborhood than we would be otherwise. So we do a lot of statistical analysis, more than people would probably think. We look at all new construction, all the permits from all the cities and from the county. We do all the mapping for the county, the digital maps. We have some new software that lets us look at digital aerial photographs, and we can actually measure the property from the digital aerial photographs as accurately as we could by walking around and pulling tape around it, which makes our time, we can do a lot more work with essentially fewer people that way, and we're having to live in a world where we have to look at that sort of thing.
So people who believe or have believed over the years that it matters what area they move into, what neighborhood they move into, if they want to maintain value in their home.
It matters.
Yes, it does matter.
The realtors and the appraisers use a term that a lot of people have heard, but the most important thing you run into when you're looking at real estate is location, location, location. And in some cases, particularly with commercial property, 50 feet from a good location might be a bad location. But generally from a residential standpoint, neighborhood to neighborhood, subdivision to subdivision, there'll be some minor differences, and some of them have to do with how old it is, or how well the properties have been kept up, or the size of the properties and all that sort of thing.
And I know I've mentioned this, I brought this up to you before when I've had you on the show. And location, location, location. That's why there are some people who will not maintain their homes and landscaping and everything else because they figure the value of the property then will go up and they'll pay more taxes. So as a result, they will let things go down. And then there's the unfortunate side of it is that when certain people, especially a certain number, start letting things go down in the neighborhood, then everybody else starts to do the same, just let things go. In which case then the entire neighborhood ends up then having their properties devalued because of what's around them and what's going on. And the same thing, though, the opposite happens, is that when somebody starts fixing up their property and then another person starts fixing it up, then others start to fix it up. You know, what I'm getting to, I guess, is that sometimes people feel discouraged by fixing it up if the taxes go up. But the truth is that they would have to do an awful lot of that in order to really make a dent.
We're not gonna up values in a neighborhood because people are cutting their grass more often. What we're looking at is what are properties selling for in that neighborhood. And if there's one person who's not doing their grass, they're not going to really denigrate the values a whole lot. But if it's really bad, somebody might buy that house. And it might impact a little bit. So I don't want to gloss over that too much. But you're absolutely right. If everybody's making a neighborhood look good, people are going to want to live there. They're going to ride through, and quite frankly, you probably, you know, you're going to gain a lot more from keeping your neighborhood good than you're going to lose in property taxes by letting it run down. You're going to lose a lot more in value than you are in property taxes by not keeping it up. So it's always a good thing to have the neighborhoods that look good and have, you know, people keeping things up, families want to move in there with small kids, and, you know, you have a much more positive area, and that will lead to better values.
Oh, I would agree. I know where I live, Pelican Bay, that houses are now starting to sell again, and the values have pretty much been maintained. That doesn't mean that they're where they were when the big bubble was there, but they haven't changed that much, so that people still get more from the houses than they paid for them initially, or it costs to build them. And I know when you were on once before, you were saying that the values of properties in certain parts of the county actually have been maintained, pretty much.
They have. What's interesting, and we did an analysis not too long ago, looking back before the bubble started. It started around 2002. I went back in the 90s, and if you looked at an average rate of about 4% per year appreciation, which was kind of typical around the end of the 90s and early part of 2000, 2002. If you apply that as an appreciation factor up until 2012, the median sale price would be within about $10,000 or $15,000 what it is right now. So we're not far from where we would have been without the bubble. What's happened is, because of the bubble and the bursting of the bubble, we have a lot of foreclosures out there and a lot of inventory of properties that's keeping values from going back up, because until the banks clear out the foreclosures, that foreclosures compete with new properties and everything else, because they want to get rid of the property, get it back out of their books and off their books, and it'll go for less money than it would otherwise. And until that happens, prices aren't going to go back to increasing. We're seeing stability in a lot of areas, or some areas still going down a little bit, but a more stable market, I'd say, than we had last year. I think the overall tax roll this year probably, it was negative a little bit last year, but it was just by a little over close to 2%. It's going to probably be either close to level or maybe even a little positive this year. So things are getting better, but they're getting better slower than we'd like. But let me tell you, positive is positive.
Yeah, and it's better than negative. And you know, one of the things we talked about before too had to do with the condominium sales, which are starting to pick up now, aren't they?
Yeah, condominium sales have picked up, and we're getting both higher numbers and higher prices in those. So that's a good thing. I mean, there's a lot more real estate activity this year than it was last year, and last year than the year before. So we're getting more sales, which is very positive. The price hasn't changed as much as I think anybody would like, but you've got to have the activity to sort of deplete the inventory that's out there of the foreclosed properties. So it's working in the right direction now.
Now I know that because I go to the economic development, the county's economic development updates, and they are saying that foreclosures are still a major problem in our county. Daytona Beach has a big problem with it, and I know that Flagler County has a big problem with it. There are some other cities in this county as well. And Florida is still up, if not I think it's number 2 now in terms of foreclosures.
So we're number 1. In January we had 29,000 foreclosures,
wow.
And California had like 19,000 number 2. We are way ahead of everybody else in foreclosures.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot to be done, and I know that the legislature is considering some ways of speeding up the process. And I know one of the things that you mentioned during our Rotary meeting had to do with the court's involvement with foreclosures, and states where they have that, they don't have that.
That's an interesting point. I'm glad you remembered that. The foreclosures are handled in different states different ways. And there's basically 2 ways. One is it's handled through the court system, and the court has to process it, which means a lot of red tape, a lot of paperwork to be filed, and it's a very slow process. The other way that I'm not that familiar with, because it's not used in Florida, but is basically through a process, but it processes, I believe, close to 3 or 4 times as fast. So we would get out of the hole a lot quicker if the legislature would change the way foreclosures get processed. You can have things processed essentially by private industry, the banking industry, with rules and regulations that see that things are done properly. But when you put it into government, I'm not going to talk about bureaucrats, but government is going to take longer, and the court system itself, not just meaning government, the court system itself is going to take longer than any private process would. And I think we could go a long way if the legislature and our legislators would look at that. If there's something the federal government could do to either encourage that or enable that, it would certainly help markets all over the country.
Now, we've talked about the government and the passage of laws by them setting the tax rates and how that impacts not the property values, but the taxes that people pay. And depending on how high those taxes are, you've got either business that will decide that they're going to relocate there or go somewhere else where it's not as high, or you've got taxpayers who are then saddled with higher taxes in one municipality than they are in another municipality or in one county as opposed to another county. How does the setting of that the property tax rate affect and impact not the value but the sale even of the homes?
Well, whether taxes are high or low probably is reflected more in the millage rate. And I know some of the folks in government don't want to talk about our high millage rate, but we have a high millage rate, and you can't get around that any other way. We have the second highest millage rate in the state. We have some things that we have voted for that are part of the reason for that. We have voted hospitals. I think there are 3 or 4 counties out of 67 who have that in their millage rate. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it. I'm simply saying that we voted that in back, I think, with the charter a long time ago, long before I came here. We voted in Volusia Forever and Volusia Echo, which have done a lot of nice things. I think we're the only county in the state that has that. So some of what we have is self-inflicted to that extent. Some of the other is we have a lot of things going on in this county. Government's involved in a lot of things. There's a lot of concern, there's a lot of talk about how much government should be in this or how much of that. I don't really engage in a whole lot of that because I got a job to do value and stuff, and the people who are responsible for budgets, and let there be no confusion about what I think about that. Your taxes, folks listening, are directly related to government budgets. People think, and I was kidding Ed Connor when he left here a little while ago, I said, Ed, they changed the name from tax assessor to property appraiser about 30 years ago in Florida. You know, you might just want to use that sometime when you write about me. but that's okay. Ed and I are good friends, and we agree on a whole lot of stuff. But getting into the budgets and into the budgeting process and looking at what the money is being spent on. If the budgets go up from one year to the next, you're going to pay more taxes. More taxes will be raised, and it's not about the millage rate. People will talk about a millage rate, and a lot of the you know this because you were a city clerk, which meant you worked with the commissioners all the time. The county commissioners and city commissioners, they want to say we're leaving the millage rate the same, so we're not raising your taxes. That's a false statement. If values go up, millage rates by law must go down unless you have a tax increase. And that's in the statutes. And they sign a form each year. I mean, years ago, we had one instance where the taxes went up 34% in 1 year. And one official in that particular area, which I will leave unnamed, both the person and the area, said we did not increase taxes. we left the millage rate the same, when in fact their budgets went up 34%. Because they left the millage rate the same, the values went up and then the budgets went up and there was this windfall of money. Well, anytime you spend more money, it's like you can't spend more money at your home than you have coming in. A government can control how much comes in because they get to set that budget and that's how much can come in. And if they can sort of disguise that by leaving budget rate, the millage rate the same and telling people they're not doing something that they are doing, but then you know what happens out of that? People don't trust government.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems we have in government right now is a lack of trust.
Absolutely.
You're showing your introduction, I'm over here, wanting to go both fists in the air saying, go Gwen, because if we as government were totally straightforward with our taxpayers and we told them everything we were going to do, if you're going to spend more money next year than this year, let's talk a lot about what we're going to spend that money on and how worthy it is and how worthwhile it is and how much you, the taxpayers, need that. Otherwise, let's don't do it.
Right. And if people agree that they need it, then they will support you. If they don't, then... If
values go up, then unless you need, if you need the money, talk about what you're going to spend on it. Otherwise, drop that millage rate. Let's don't stay number 2. But it's like pulling hen's teeth, as they used to say in the country where I grew up.
And you're absolutely right, because they set the budget and that millage rate to bring in the funds that would allow them to maintain the same spending rate.
And there are no teeth in a hen's mouth.
Oh my gosh. Oh, but that is really and truly the truth of it, and there are games that are played like, oh, we're going to reduce this or we're going to reduce that, and to cut back in this area and cut back, and what they end up doing then is cutting back on their spending a little bit to accommodate and reduce that millage rate so that they're taxing the people a tiny bit less, but there really is.
There have been some significant cuts in spending. I know in 1 year, 2 or 3 years ago, the county general fund went down 17%. $17 million. 1 year. That's a big cut. And a number of the cities did the same thing, and I applaud them for doing that. I think the high taxes that we had at the peak of the bubble and when things burst, both government was forced to look at their spending in ways they hadn't before, and people got more interested in what was going on and more involved. I hope now that things are probably going to turn around a little bit, that people will not lose their interest, because I think it's very, very important to monitor what your government is doing, what they're spending money on, and whether or not find out what they're doing. Everybody's got a website. I got a website. As I say, I got a website. You got a website. All I got is a website. Everybody in government now has a website, and most of the offices are required to. So you can find a lot out about them. And if you don't, ignorance is not bliss.
Absolutely.
It is not bliss.
No, it costs you.
It's a good thing. We have the most incredible and wonderful system of government in this country of any place on earth. But it will not work well if people are not involved. And you don't want to leave it up to the people watching you don't want to leave it up to government, and I'm not saying they're not trustworthy, but you want to watch. If it's your money, nobody hands somebody else their checkbook and says, okay, you take care of the bills, just send me something every now and then, and I trust you to invest the rest and make me and I'll be able to retire in 20 years. Nobody does that.
No.
But government is using your money. They are either investing your money or giving you services for your money. You need to know what those are. And a lot of times you're probably going to find out there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, that's true. But when the bubble was there and a lot of money was coming in, there should have been some kind of either reshifting or saving of dollars for that day that you knew was coming, when the money would not have been coming in to such a great degree. And for the most part, a lot of government agencies and entities did not do that. They just kept spending.
I think that the same is true at the federal level.
Oh yeah, all over.
The spending thing it's endemic in local government, state government, and federal government. I think local government, to me, I like local government because it's local.
Mm-hmm.
You can go down to City Hall and see those people and talk to them, and you may think, well, I don't want to go down there, this, that, but I mean, you need to do that.
Right.
You don't have to go every week. You need to get a feel for what's going on. Let them know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you as an elected person that every single vote counts. And when somebody walks up to you and says almost anything, you stop and listen
Mm-hmm.
to what they've got to say. So I mean that people need to be involved in their government. It is your government. It's not my government. It's your government. We got a sign in my office that says, "This is your office, and we work for you. This office belongs to you, and we work for you."
Mm-hmm. And I for sure know that every vote counts because I was elected as a city commissioner on one vote. So every vote does indeed count. Now, is there legislation that you're aware of that that may help that the legislature is considering that may help to ease some of the property tax burdens at all for commercial or residential properties?
No, I don't know of any tax relief from the standpoint of legislation comes in the form of exemptions, and I don't think we're looking at a lot of new exemptions of any type.
Now, the ones that have been passed, because there are several exemptions that the voters did approve that had to do with helping veterans, helping first responders, and all of that. And at the time when I was talking with you, we didn't really know what the impact would be totally.
Well, we don't know now, but I don't think that particular bill is going to be one that's going to make much difference in the overall cost of government. What it is going to do is extend the same kind of benefits and courtesies to the surviving spouses of police officers and first responders who lose their life in the line of duty. And we do that with the military. And I thought from the minute that was proposed in the constitutional amendment that was a very worthwhile thing to do. And I believe it will be.
Now, we have a lot of exemptions. I know you don't know all of them off the top of your head, but
you're right.
Because especially for the elderly, in those communities, municipalities where they've approved that type of an exemption, there is an exemption for elderly individuals.
And it's associated with the level of income of everyone living in the home.
Oh, of everyone?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The over 65 additional exemption is associated with income somewhere around 25,000 of everyone in the property.
And that's on top of the 50.
Yes, they have to reapply for that each year, or they have to send us back a statement that hasn't changed.
And then there's also an exemption for disabled individuals, right?
Yes. There are a number of those. If you are military-wise, the term is totally and permanently disabled, and that is a VA term that is different from being a 100% exempted. The 100% exemption can be reevaluated and changed. If you're totally and permanently disabled, you're disabled forever. That's not a circumstance anybody wants to be in, but that one's different. The civilian total disabilities are accompanied by a couple of doctor statements and some other things. We have those. Those are detailed on our website, and somebody call our office. When you call the Volusia County Property Appraiser's office, you do not get a recording. You get a real person who says, "Hello, welcome to the Property Appraiser's office. How may I help you?" And if that person can't help you, they'll transfer you somewhere where you can. But you you get real people, real voices, and real responses, and I'm proud of that. I don't think it costs us any more money than these places. I'll tell you what, I get terribly frustrated with businesses and other government places where you call and you can't get a human, and you really need to talk to somebody, and you can't get them.
Yeah,
So
you want such and such, press 1 now.
Yeah.
You want such and such, press 1 now, press 2 now, whatever.
Now, I will say, we didn't used to have music, but now the county's got a phone system that puts that on our system, so you might get to listen to a little music, which is okay. But I think people choose their own music. If you're gonna do music, then, say 1 for country, 2 for soul, 3 for gospel, and then let them pick what they want. But
Now your website, what is your website address again, and what's available on that?
You can look up your property or anybody else's property in the county on that website. It is volusia.org, and that'll get you in, and you can go to the property appraiser's site. We have every property in the county. We have maps. You can locate them by aerial photographs. You can bring up the aerial photograph and click over on the right and look at recent sales, and they'll show up in 3 different colors for each of the last 3 years. And you can zoom out in the area you are till you see where some sales are. If you're looking to buy real estate or to sell real estate, that's a great way to see what property is selling for. If you want to, let's say you want to go live where Gwen lives, you want to go out to Pelican Bay, find that area on the map, click that map, and you can see what's selling in there. And then you can zoom in on that and get an address. If you click on it, it'll bring our record up, you can get an address. You can actually go from there to Google and probably get a view of the front of the house. We don't have photographs of the houses on our website. Some property appraisers are doing that. We may someday, but I'm still a little sensitive to the privacy issue.
Now, and on the website, you get the value, that assessed value of the property as well?
You can get the assessed value of the property back to 1983. I mean, you can get a complete history. You get the legal description. You get the breakdown of what we have the property addressed. If there are different land uses, it shows that. There's a button where you can see the actual calculations that we make in our value calculation. And the whole works, you can see pretty much everything there is to see. We have, as I said before, I live my business about giving people information. We put, I think, more information about the property out there than you'll find just about anywhere. And we are in the process of revising the website, bringing it into a little better technology, even though it's pretty good now. But I'd like for people to be able to be a little more interactive with it. And because many years ago I was a consultant, and I don't hire a lot of consultants like a lot of government offices do. I quite frankly think if you pay somebody the big bucks for managing the government office, if they have to hire a consultant and pay them big bucks to give them a decision, you need to jack that person up and put somebody else in there who can do that work themselves. I don't need consultants for the most part. We use one consultant in the 26 years I've been there, and that's to help us with public utility valuation, which is a very complicated thing. It uses federal form and a whole lot of other stuff. And I actually have somebody now who's got a master's degree working in our office who is going to work that person out of a job. We're not going to be using that consultant too far into the future, we think. So, but anyway, we built our initial website without any charge to the county. We had and worked with the IT department at Embry-Riddle University, and they helped us build one of the first property appraisal websites in the country. And for years, the server that served that site was located on the campus of Embry-Riddle. We have the server over at DeLand now, but we are doing the reworking of it right now with somebody in our shop, and we're not right now. We don't have any plans to go out and work up some big consulting charge from somewhere to get somebody else to do it.
Let me say very quickly, you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest, of course, is Morgan Gilreath, property appraiser for Volusia County. And this is WLE 1380 AM on your radio dial in Ormond Beach, Florida. Also Gilreath Radio. And Morgan's sweet and wonderful wife is here as well. She's not saying anything, but you can see her on the video here. Now, Morgan, there was some talk a few years back about appraisal of commercial properties, and people are talking about the impact that sometimes the appraisals of commercial properties and their value have on other types of property in the area. Do commercial properties, if a residential property is nearby, does that impact the value of that residential property?
Not directly, unless you have an established subdivision, and for some reason it goes commercial around it, it could. But for the most part, residential subdivisions are sort of self-contained. If you have an older area, say, I'm thinking US 1 area in Ormond or somewhere where we don't have that many areas in Volusia County where you have urban encroachment, so to speak, of a city moving into an urban area. Then you can possibly have some value change. But for the most part, zoning laws take care of commercial properties being located in areas that are commercial and that have commercial things around them. And there are buffer areas for residential areas. So the comprehensive planning laws over the last 25 years or so have pretty much made that where I don't think it's a problem. I mean, maybe an isolated incident where it is, but for the most part, I don't think that's a problem.
So it's just a good selling item or gimmick for real estate people if they say you're nearby a Walmart or you're nearby a Family Dollar or something.
Well, that's a different thing. I'm thinking about urban encroachment or,
or
commercial encroachment in a residential area.
Because we're seeing a lot of these Family Dollars and the like and Walmarts all around.
If you have commercial service industries around you, like a Walmart or a dollar store or whatever, or schools or whatever, all of those things enhance the value of residential property.
Oh, okay. That's good for people to know, because there are a lot of times that you get neighborhoods up in in an uproar because a Walmart's moving into the area or a Family Dollar or whatever else, and if that's adding value to your home and your property, then hey, it could be seen as a good thing. Now, commercial properties. We've had, and I think I heard a little bit of Big John's show earlier where a caller was talking about people coming into the area and buying up a lot of vacant properties, and for some of them they're going to flip it, but what I see more so now is that people, because the value of a lot of these commercial properties is low right now, still low, they're coming in, they're buying them, and they're holding on to them. Do you see more of that, or
I don't. We get to see the documents, the recorded documents after sale occurs. So we don't do. Nowhere in those recorded documents is there a document that says this is why I bought this property.
You don't see that in what they give the government either.
And if there was one, they wouldn't be giving it us. But yes, it is a great time to buy property in Florida. It's a great time to buy property in Volusia County, commercial property or residential property. We have property selling in Deltona and probably in areas around here where residential properties are selling low enough to where you can buy the property and plan to rent it out and make payments from your rent. And that's called a true investment property. So there are, for young couples or young folks who are starting to build a little bit of Ed used the word portfolio or something like that. But if you have the ability to buy and you can find an area where you think you might rent something, you can buy it, rent it, and make money off of it. In the peak of the boom market, rents were going down because you couldn't get there. The prices were so high you couldn't support piece of rental property off of what you could get off of the rents. And people, if you went up on the rents, people would leave, then you had a vacancy, and it was a vicious cycle. Right now, that cycle is in the most favorable, it's a full moon out there.
Which is why the article that Big John was referring to about rental, that Florida is a great place for rental properties
it's
now.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. The problem, of course, and I would say to anybody who's trying to rent in Pelican Bay, make sure that you keep the property up as well. That's the problem. The problem of the rent, that people come in, they buy the property, but they don't invest any money into fixing it up and keeping it that way while people are renting. And as a result, it then starts to deteriorate and it starts to devalue an area.
But there's a sort of a self-motivating factor there. If you own the property and you're renting it, if you don't keep it up, then you're not going to be able to keep the rents up. You're not going to be able to increase the rents later. So there's a little bit of a self-motive in that. As a management professor of mine in college said, it's called enlightened self-interest. There's an enlightened self-interest in keeping that property up if you own it and rent it. Yes.
Share with us, are there other things that you think that our listeners need to know in order to stay on top of different things that are happening? Because as we've talked about, the values are starting to go up. Maybe as if legislation, because I think there is some legislation that was pending or whatever having to do with the banks and the way they're handling properties, just sitting on them and sitting on them and sitting on them to really try to get that moving. Because we find, even in our gated community where banks own properties, they do sit on them, and we find that we can only go back so far to try to collect on unpaid fees or whatever that they should have paid. So that creates problems really throughout, and the banks are creating some real havoc in those property areas where they really are nice areas. Values are going up. It's a good time to invest. It's a good time to invest and maybe purchase properties and fix them up and rent them out and the like. For those who want to buy homes, this is a good time to buy.
When you move into a home, whether you're buying it or whether you're renting it, get to know your neighbors. As one of the insurance companies who I will not advertise for say, be a good neighbor. That shows in a neighborhood more than anything.
Absolutely.
And that's that word that we started out with earlier that makes the world turn a lot better than it does otherwise. And so I think I'd rather leave on that note than trying to pontificate what somebody could do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, oh yeah, like a good neighbor. And we all love having good neighbors, and we know a few that every so often kind of don't quite add up to that, but you kill them with kindness and love, right? Well,
maybe not literally.
Not literally, not literally. Let me ask you, as we prepare to go off, though, because we do have a few minutes left. You've been in office for how many years now? Is it?
I've been in the elected office 20 years.
20 years, wow. I was asking someone really last week who had been in office a while, and one of the question that I asked was this: how have things changed as you see it? And of course you work for other elected officials, so you may or may not want to answer this, but how?
No, I don't work for them. I work for the people.
Okay.
The other elected officials can't fire me. Only the people can fire me.
Oh, that's right. You're elected. You're elected as well. But
I don't forget that.
How have things changed over the years? And it goes back to the query that I have on my website in terms of courtesy, in terms of how we deal with one another and work together and the like. Over those 20 years, how have you found things to have to work, changes in terms of working with people and dealing with people? Do you find, that everybody's still as, and I know you get back what you put out, but sometimes you get a little bit more, to say the least. But do you find that there is still, I know there's still a lot of good people out there, but Do you find that there's more in the way of discourtesy and disrespect and the like, even for your office or whatever?
I don't really see that much. I think that the times we live in, because of both the international, national, and local economy, these times are tough on a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have lost jobs, a lot of people have lost businesses, and a lot of people aren't where their dream machine thought they were going to be. Mm-hmm. So that leads to some stress and frustration, and that can come out when they're looking at something from a government standpoint that either didn't go their way or the taxes are higher than they thought they were going to be, or whatever. Our job in government is to understand that all this other stuff is going on, mm-hmm. and try to be receptive when people come in. And in my shop, we've had conversations about this. In our job, we understand that and I've said this to my people, nobody comes to our office to say hello or to come get a cup of coffee.
Or a hug.
Or a hug. Nobody comes to see us because that's where they want to be. Mm-hmm. So understand that. When they walk in the door, they're on a mission, and they may not, they may think that the reason they're there is because of a problem we created, and they may be right. Mm-hmm. So we need to first, and I always, if somebody comes in and really wants to unload something, I let them unload it. And I usually, at the end of that, try to rephrase what I've heard them say, mm-hmm. and say, listen,
yeah, I used to do
let me make sure I understand where you're coming from, because if I don't, we're not going to be able to mm-hmm. communicate. But our job is to be as understanding as we can be. That doesn't mean that we have to sit there, and if some people come in and use a lot of profanity and stuff like that, my people don't have to listen. They can give that person to me. I'll listen to it, mm-hmm. and I'll let them.
Yeah, I did that too. Yeah.
I really don't see a lot of it. Most people, even if they're really frustrated, when they see that you want to hear what they have to say,
and you're listening, mm-hmm.
and you're listening. There's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Some people don't get that yet, but anyway.
So it really is. I think a lot of it has to do with listening to what people have to say, mm-hmm. and then trying to explain to them what you have done. And I will tell anybody, we can tell you exactly what we have done in evaluation of your property, why we did it, and if we've made a mistake, we can generally correct that. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of us understanding why you're here and what you need. If it's, if there's a problem. Now, if they're filing for a homestead exemption or something like that, it's very straightforward. But if there's a problem, we need to understand what it is. And my people do a great job of that. I get very few. I don't remember the last time I got a complaint. Yeah, actually I did. But I won't say anything about that one, but I get very few complaints. 100 to 1, outweighed by the people who say, your office, they're so nice and they're so kind. Mm-hmm. The reason is because they listen, mm-hmm. and they're great people. I'm proud mm-hmm. of every single one of them.
And I'll bet because this is what I did too, if someone comes to your shop and they're in the wrong place, that you guys try to find out where it is they should be before you send them out the door, as opposed to just sending them out the door. Right. Because that just adds to their grief and pain.
Well, the worst thing you can say to somebody is, that's not my job.
Uh-huh.
And it may not be your job, but find out whose job it is and call them up if need be.
Yeah.
And if need be, put somebody on the phone with them so they can mm-hmm. at least get something started. Mm-hmm. If they're, and we get a lot of this, there's only 1 floor in Daytona, but in DeLand, the building's got 4 floors. So we get a lot of traffic coming on the first floor. We mm-hmm. try to steer people to the right mm-hmm. place.
Mm. Well, as I started out saying, you're just a super person in the right job and with the right calling. And I certainly appreciate your being on the show. And if you would tell people again the website where they can go and get more information, your phone number if you want to give that, and where they can call if they have a question. And I know that if there's an issue, all they have to do is get in touch with you guys, because you even have an appeals process for those who feel that they've yes. been, commercial properties and the like that feel that they've been, you know, wrongly evaluated in terms of their, what they should be paying in
Yes.
taxes and the like. So if you'd share that as we leave.
Well, the best way to get all the information you might ever want about our office is go to the website, which is volusia.org/property, or volusia.org, and just look for Property Appraiser, and then you can click on it and you'll find us. All the phone numbers. Our phone number in Daytona is 254-4601, 254-4601, and that'll get you in talking to a real person, and whatever you want, we can help you get where you we may not help you get where you want to be, but we can help you get information you need.
Absolutely, and that's key, and that really and truly is important. Thank you again, Morgan Gilreath.
Don't wait so long to ask me to come back.
Right.
I had to shoot back on that.
And I caught up with him, to tell you the truth. I caught up with him when he came to Rotary to touch base with you. But Morgan Gilreath, our property appraiser for Volusia County, and we thank you so much for coming on, and we thank you for joining him. Do you still do the thing with the ministers, or the, what you call it, once a week?
Well, we have. I meet with a group of guys every Wednesday morning. We go to another place every Friday morning. I'm involved with some prison ministry.
Praise God. That's what I was going to do if we have more time to get into. And
well,
you also.
I don't want. I really don't want to talk about that.
Right.
When you talk about that, then it starts becoming about. And I probably shouldn't have mentioned that on the air because that's. I don't really,
but you're a giving person. That we'll just leave it at that.
I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. But you're a super
me
person.
And God, I'm supposed to do that in a closet.
But you also, I know when they had hurricanes and the like in some of these other areas, you actually went and volunteered.
Yes, we
and
did.
Gave the benefit of your expertise and the like in those areas.
We were in the front of the forefront of getting property appraisal people to do damage assessment work across the country. And we developed one of the first models that was anywhere in that, and actually have a software firm who is licensed the right to sell that across the country, and they've done something.
Awesome.
And Volusia County gets money off of each sale. And I get nothing, my office gets nothing, the money comes into the county's general fund at 2% of their gross sales, not just their net.
Awesome. And as a result, though, you end up helping an area that needs the help for that assessment. So thank you. See, don't you just love people who are humble and, you know, this, boy, I tell you, they don't want the credit or anything. They just want to help and to serve.
I'm going to come back once a week.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's what we're all about. Okay, guys, remember to join us every Thursday as we start at 6:15 or whenever I boot the big guy out of the chair, as I say, as we discuss issues to inform and empower your listeners. Also go to the website, www.gwen-truth.com. Until next time, be informed, be empowered, and stand tall for that which is right and truthful. As with my guest, Morgan Gilreath and wife, and myself, and hopefully all of you, we're still standing. You be blessed and have a great week. And remember, as I start out talking about how happy and joyful I am at this point in time, I tell you, you just continue to enjoy life. And you know how you enjoy life best? By helping others. Okay? You be blessed. Have a great week. Till next Thursday.
Your host,
Wow.
Azama-Edwards.
Thank you.